In the distant future, the discovery of a black monolith on the moon signifies the existence of alien life beyond our planet. An exploratory team of astronauts is sent to Saturn, where a signal from the monolith was sent. But the ship's artificially intelligent caretaker takes matters into his own hands in the 1968 sci fi game changer 2001 A Space Odyssey. I'm Connor Izagari.
I'm Austin Johnson.
And this is Filmgasm. Welcome to the Filmgasm podcast. Before we start, I believe it's Jupiter in the movie, Saturn in the book. So thank you so much, Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, for making me screw that up.
Today. That's quite all right. Initially, Kubrick wanted it to be Mars and change it to Jupiter. So, all kinds of planets being represented here on Filmgasm.
Not an Odyssey. If you're going to Mars, that's like a 2-day bus trip in the future. So had to be Jupiter.
Yeah, and he knew that.
Yeah, I'm sure they had that argument. I'm sure that was a fierce, vicious argument. Jupiter or Mars. Today we're stepping into the career of noted auteur and perfectionist nutcase Stanley Kubrick to discuss his Oscar-winning sci-fi epic 2001: A Space Odyssey. We definitely have mixed feelings about this one, and we chose to discuss it for a very specific reason. And I'm going to leave that to you. Austin, why did we decide to talk about this?
Well, we've been changing things here on Filmgasm, and we want fresh ideas for episodes and doing different kinds of things and having fun with all kinds of genres. And Connor and I were discussing, maybe we should do some sort of movie swap where, you watch a movie that I recommend, I watch a movie you recommend. That's hard to do when we've both seen a lot of the same things and like the same things. We have very similar taste for the most part. I'd say like 95% of the time. And then we were like, what if we found movies that we've only seen once and we gave it that second visit, that very important second watch. And 2001 Space Odyssey is one of the, most acclaimed films by one of our directors, like a mutual director we both like a lot. It's one of those classic films that you just kind of have to see. And it's on the tippy top of all kinds of lists, Sight and Sound and AFI, all these different lists. It's always ranked very high. So it deserves a second watch, right? Most Kubrick films do they gain that respect. And 2001: A Space Odyssey, we both, the first time we watched it, were just kind of like, I don't know if I get it or like what's going on here. And so giving it that second watch is always interesting to see if anything changes. I think a little bit more change for me than you, but we'll get into that today. I'm really excited. I've been reading a lot about this movie. I haven't been able to get it out of my head, which is a good sign. Like when you're kind of just grappling with a film, it's also frustrating because it's so ambiguous and there's so many different interpretations you can take with this movie. That's also part of the fun.
Yeah, I love the idea of the second watch. There's so many films I've been able to finally understand or appreciate by giving them a second chance. And, it's not always going to happen. Sometimes your first impression is pretty on the spot. But
yeah.
But then, in some cases, I'm going to find something and be like, oh my God, where was I years ago? And that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. And I try pretty hard to set aside the first time I watched it, whether it was a year ago or years ago. In this case, it's like 5 or 6 years with 2001. The first time I watched this movie, I did the classic thing where I got together with some of my buddies, smoked a bunch of weed and watched it and was like, whoa, but also like, oh, what? Like it was one of those things. Cause that's like that its legacy is that, when the movie premiered and was doing very poorly with critics and people were walking out in the middle of it. And its initial premiere, Stanley Kubrick was sitting like in the front row and was like cowered over, like, oh fuck, like what happened here? And then Arthur Clarke was in tears during the intermission, was in tears because he's like, this is like kind of my vision, the story. and like what happens in this movie, everything with the monolith and Dave and all these, Hal, these different characters, he was like, oh fuck, like we fucked up. And then, during the like late 60s and during the 70s, stoners and hippies like just gripped onto this movie and were like, yeah, this is ours. Like, so then they changed the advertising, because back then movies would play for years in theaters, right? And they changed the advertising, like on the posters and trailers, for it's the ultimate trip.
Oh my God.
So then you would get people to come in like, oh, if you take some acid at the right time, by the time you get to the interstellar highway, the Stargate, the last hour and half hour of the movie, you're gonna be like, holy fuck, you're hallucinating and you're watching these colors go by, and it's like brilliant. So of course, 5-6 years ago, I was smoking pot like all the time, and I was like, well, I need to do that. Not only do I like doing that with my friends, I also love movies. So I remember I kind of headed it up with my buddies that I was like hanging out with at the time, and I was like, hey, let's do this together. Like, it'll be fun. And they weren't into it as much as I was, just off of like, oh, really, dude, we're gonna watch a 2.5 hour movie that like has 40 minutes of talking and 100 minutes of just stuff. That's more up my alley than theirs. But we all had a good time. But I left it there. I like left it right there. I was like, yeah, it was a trip, man. Whatever. But like, man, I as like a cinephile, I'm just like always wondering, what's that second watch gonna do? What's that gonna do to me as a fan? And this time around, sober as can be, watched it in my bedroom with the lights off by myself, and I was like, okay, I definitely get this a little bit more than I did, years ago. Not only is there a big change in the way I watched it by myself, sober, also 5-6 years go by in the middle of my 20s. I'm a different movie watcher now, so I appreciated it a lot more this time as a movie. And man, I would love to see this thing on the big screen. Holy shit!
Well, to paraphrase another movie we recently covered, in another life, I would have really enjoyed smoking pot and watching 2001: A Space Odyssey with you.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
I knew about the stoner help in box office. I didn't know about the poster change, and that is just delightful.
The ultimate trip, man. And have you heard that story about the kid in LA that ran through the screen? He was on acid. He ran through the this is great. So my favorite things about the movie is that there's so many crazy stories about like hippies like just losing their minds. He ran this through the movie screen at the end when the fetus is on the screen and said, "It's God." Like, fuck yeah, that's cool as shit.
Oh my God.
Like,
oh, that's
in the middle of LA, some 19-year-old is like high off his ass, like, yeah, I can't. Everything makes sense now. Thank you, Kubrick. And Kubrick was like he like never took drugs, never did any of that. He had to ask different people about like, oh, what do I need to do visually to like make this appealing to that audience? Like he was kind of a fucking square, So I love like those little anecdotes about this movie.
Oh, it's great. People who've never seen this, they know about it due to it being parodied to death since 1968. It's it's intense. I first watched this in my senior year of college. I took a class on the films of Stanley Kubrick. We covered. We started with The Killing, and we ended with. She did the coolest thing at the end. She picked films that she feels would have been Kubrick films had he been alive to make them.
Oh God.
It included AI, artificial intelligence. There Will Be Blood.
Oh God. Oh God.
Yeah. I wish I knew the rest, but yeah. And of course, we talked about every one of his films in order of release. So when we got to 2001, I was excited. This has been on my list for years. I'd never seen it before. All I knew was The Simpsons did it. And I started watching it. We get the Dunner, and I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna be wild. And then it's just, you hear that? That's silence.
Yeah,
lots of it.
Not
very entertaining, is it?
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, I was kind of bummed. I was like, this is kind of my worst fear with this movie was that it would be boring as shit. I was hoping it wasn't going to be, and then it was. So then I just threw it away and thought nothing of it till we brought it here, and I was, years
So
later. Yeah,
so like when you did that, you said your senior year of college.
yeah, that was 2017.
So like you wrote a review for Filmgasm, I assume.
I did, yeah.
And what'd you give it? Like what
I think
rating?
I think I gave it a 7 because at the time I was afraid to give it a 6 because I was like,
So
if people don't, see this and they think I'm an idiot, I don't want them thinking I'm an idiot.
yeah, I don't really I understand that, especially at that age, and
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
I'm
I'm in a
cool.
film class. I don't want anybody else in this film class seeing me not like this and thinking I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I think there's a phase for every cinephile that you like have to go through like that, right? Where you're like, oh, do I have to like all these movies that are quote unquote classics? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Not everything's going to be for you. And on paper, this is like right up my alley. Like kind of just like out there, like lots of wacky interpretations, tons of different essays about it. So I don't know. I don't really know what like I would rate it, honestly. Like I don't know. I have it at 4 stars on Letterboxd, but like I don't really know. Like it sits at like a fucking beautiful 4.3 like average on that, and people just love this movie. I don't really know exactly like what my feelings are about it, but I respect the hell out of it and what it's done and what it did at the time. Like this movie, there's probably 12 to 15 times when I was watching it this past time, a couple nights ago, where I was like, how the fuck did they do this? Like, still 55 years later, 55 years. And we just hit the actual anniversary like a few days ago. Like, what in the hell? How did they do some of this shit? And you look up how it was done, and you're like, man, like Kubrick maybe outdid himself for like I love the guy to death. Like I love his movies. And you watch this, and you're like, I, obviously, like his adaptation of The Shining and like A Clockwork Orange and those things are kind of like more like what I love about him. But you're like filmmaking wise, this guy fucking outdid himself with this movie.
Yeah, it looks incredible. It still looks incredible. I think, every modern sci-fi film owes a great debt to 2001: A Space Odyssey.
100%.
It
Yeah.
completely changed what sci-fi films can do. Because prior to this, we had like Forbidden Planet and shit like that, where it was
Yeah.
very clear it was, rubber spacesuits on a backstage lot and a furry alien wearing a gorilla costume that got, ripped off from Planet of the Apes. So this was nothing like that. This was real space. And that was new. The moon landing hadn't fucking happened yet. People,
Yeah.
this was, he got it. Like, I remember reading that, like, the government investigated him for stealing state secrets from NASA because he got it too right. He was too good. There's no way
Yeah.
he didn't know about the moon landing. Like, he had to have known something. So, like, eventually they were like, nope, he's just really goddamn good at this. But I love
Yeah.
that he captured space travel so realistically. The government thought he was selling secrets to the Russians.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is he just like worked smarter, not harder, in a lot of senses. Like he used a lot of companies, Nikon and these like major corporations built like appliances and different things to be on set, so that it was like, well, it's them making it, and it turns out 30-40 years later, this is how their products look. And it's like, how the like it's like he didn't even like he like, yeah, keep my hands clean, that's on them. In 2011, Samsung tried to or Apple tried to sue Samsung for copying like the iPad, the tablet. And Samsung, no kidding, this is a real story. Samsung said, have you seen the movie of 2001: A Space Odyssey? They invented the iPad. They invented the iPad before Apple was even a fucking company. It's just
Oh,
like
that's fucking beautiful.
still to this day in the 21st century, like these things are like coming to fruition that happen in this movie. It's fucking insane. Like, so on that front, with that being said, like I think like there's a baseline respect that this movie just requires and deserves.
Yeah, at the time I was like, this is boring. Fuck this. Now I'm like, this is boring, but I get it. It's like I
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not the audience. I'm the guy looking for a narrative. I'm the guy looking for character development. This isn't for me. This is a film for the conceptual sci-fi nerds who want to see what space looks like when we can go to Jupiter. And this is it. Like this is the closest we're ever going to get to going to Jupiter in our lifetime.
Yeah, I hear that for sure. I have friends who are really into this movie and they just kind of see it as this experience, this kind of visual, just holy shit. Um, and and you know, like I think you have to give like people who are visual watchers, and I consider myself kind of in the middle. Like I love just visual stuff. I love the medium of filmmaking, but I also love dialogue. I love good screenplays. I love narrative. I love good performances, and this movie does not require a lot of good performances because there's just not, a ton to hold on to. His focus, Kubrick's focus, a lot of the time is not actors. I mean, that's why sometimes in his movies, like Full Metal Jacket, has no like major stars in it, but you're like, oh my god, everybody's perfect because he just handles them so well. And then of course he does stuff like with Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise that you're like, wow, that's a movie star just doing a Kubrick movie. But it takes a special breed to be able to do this stuff. So that the cast in this movie is not like super impressive, right? It's not like, oh my god, look at that guy. That's just not why it's lasted this long. It's lasted this long because of those, those visual effects and practical effects, pre CGI, everything built, everything imaginative, and that's fucking cool.
Yeah, this is a visual marvel, this movie. And if you do like this world, but you're upset that there's not a lot of substance in it, there is a loophole. You can do what I did, read the book.
Yeah,
2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. I read it to prep for this, and I'm so glad I did because I was able to insert that narrative into my watch and follow it a lot smoother. So definitely do that. It took me 2 days to read the book. So go, find it, read it, and do it that way.
I love that. Love that so much. I've not read it, but I've always wanted to. So I definitely will try to do that. Maybe next time I watch this movie in a few years, I'll do that. Because yeah, I've like listened to people talk about this movie and from different angles and read different reviews like that are critical, but also some that are praising it. I love that about it. I love its longevity of just kind of always being divisive and nowadays more leaning towards, oh, this is a masterpiece. Like this is one of Kubrick's true blue masterpieces, and nothing wrong with that. One of the greatest musicians of all time, John Lennon, said he watched this movie for every single week for like years straight. So like, holy shit, I mean, Pink Floyd was approached to do the entire score, and scheduling conflicts happened. But obviously, if you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, you can guess what they were watching and what drugs they were on when they made that album. If you listen to I have done this. I've watched the whole movie twice, and then I've watched the Stargate, Interstellar Highway fucking thing, last 25 minutes of the movie. If you listen to the track Echoes by Pink Floyd, paired with that, like turn the volume down on the movie and listen to Echoes by Pink Floyd. Wow, just really fucking cool. Pink Floyd, one of my favorite bands, so I'm always down for that kind of stuff. The song's like 23 minutes long, so it kind of matches up perfectly. Makes you think they were probably watching the movies thinking, hey, let's write our own score to this particular stretch of the film that is very colorful, very wild, and was made that those colors that are kind of running alongside as like a tunnel were made with like paint. It's fucking crazy.
It is wild to think, like, the resources we have now to make a visually stunning film versus 1968's resources. You really got to respect what Kubrick and his team were able to pull off with this thing. Even if you don't like the movie, you got to just give him his props and just, kneel before a filmmaker who didn't waste a second. Everything mattered. Every moment of that film was carefully constructed, as per his vision. All of his films were. And, he was a cantankerous weirdo who traumatized a lot of people, but the work, man, the work.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. Him and Arthur, they had, because they like worked very closely on this thing. It's a dual vision. Oh, yeah. And they oversaw everything. Like they were freaks about this. they had a studio in London, and and like when people would go visit it and like hang out and like work there, they would be like listening to classical music, fucking editing and doing building different props and models and whatnot. It got nicknamed NASA of the East. Across the pond, pretty cool. They were like doing that cool of shit in 1967, 1966, prepping for the release of 1968. Just wow, like holy shit, man. Props, like you said, props.
Yeah, bunch of crazy assholes just doing their thing.
Yeah,
and
like fuck me. I'd love to be in the room, man. I love to be in the room for that. Just like
what? I feel like your very presence would irritate them because you're not part of the vision. They make you leave.
Take that fucking silly hat off, you dumb Texan. Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
So before we go further into 2001, I do have a question. I'm curious. I think I know where you're going to fall in this, and I know where I'm going to fall, but it's worth asking. So I've seen a lot of sci-fi movies, and I feel like sci-fi, at least in film, falls mainly into two distinct categories. You've got conceptual sci-fi, which is films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Ex Machina, for example. And then you got adventurous sci-fi, where you got Star Wars and you got your Starship Troopers and your, fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm just curious if you had to place yourself in a camp, which camp would that be?
Yeah. I mean, A.
Yeah,
for sure. For sure. I'm like the biggest Kurt Vonnegut fan I know. Big Philip K. Dick fan, guys that were like hard sci-fi, like hard to understand, wacky, weird as fuck, no explanation for a lot of stuff. And applying, like Ex Machina is a great example of like a modern one, like a current, one that's just not even 10 years old yet, and it just applies tropes that are timeless. And I believe Ex Machina in 40 years will be looked at as one of the best movies of the 2010s because it has that going for it. It's never going to age. It's always going to look good, and just the tropes and the kind of the character study part of it is just always going to be so fun to dissect. And that's like my favorite thing about it. I also, you named the big one right away. Like Star Wars is the adventure sci-fi, and I like don't connect with those movies. So I'm always going to lean towards the ones that are kind of going the opposite way of that. And, but at the same time, you see a lot of the stuff that's going on in 2001 and you're like, oh, I see what Star Wars took from this. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, this is not, oh, what a shock. I thought I knew you. No, this is, yeah. But I
knew you.
Yeah, exactly. I've growing up, I was very much in the adventurous sci-fi camp. I love a good, hero's journey in space kind of story. I think those are fun. But the older I get, the more I find myself kind of drifting towards the middle, where I want an exciting story, but with some high concept shit that's going to make me think and reconsider the world around me. That's what I want from sci-fi. And I thought Ex Machina gave me that. They gave me both sides of that.
Yeah, great story. Yeah.
So that's what I want. I want some adventurous concepts.
that one also helps, just like Oscar Isaac. Holy fuck, just a lights out all-time performance. I don't see how he's ever going to top what he did in that movie. So that always helps, right? It's like when someone just is lights out in a movie. Having the individuals that are like in a movie like Alien is like, well, that helps a lot. Everybody's fucking good in that movie. And you got like rising stars. You got people who are like character actors. Like it's just good hierarchy in that movie. And it just works because it looks awesome, but it's also a good story and everybody delivered. So yeah, I'm with you. I prefer that. Like I prefer, like the meeting of the minds, I prefer a little bit of kind of out there. Whoa, holy shit, silence for 15 minutes because space is silence. But I also love actors that are just fucking, going nuts and doing their thing. So I'm with you, man, on that front.
Yeah, I don't really like to, throw myself into camps. I like to pick and choose my my cinematic experiences. I like to, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and find films that reflect that. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Good. Good. It was hard as shit to come up with a question for 2001: Space Odyssey.
Yeah, I mean, it's either hard or like really easy. You know, you could just be like, "Do you believe in time travel, or do you believe in vortexes?"
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's like too broad. So I like that, and I think the main thing is, if you're listening to this show, what camp do you usually find yourself in? Is kind of what we're asking. Are you a conceptual guy? Are you more of an adventure guy? Or are you like, oh shit, I never thought about it that way. I'm in the middle. Nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. Exactly. Very cool. So let's talk about the production of this thing. This is such a wild yarn. 2001: A Space Odyssey was an original idea conceived by Stanley Kubrick and beloved sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke. They came together, came up with this. Clarke wrote his own novelization to be released alongside the film. So the film's not based on the book, and the book's not based on the film. They were written
Correct.
separately. Kubrick mainly took the baton for the film. Clarke wrote the book. So they both got to kind of push their vision in their respective mediums, which is kind of neat.
I think that's so cool. Like, to find a collaborator like that, like, wow, what a blessing. I mean, someone who's like willing to be like, I think Kubrick was like, I want to do a sci-fi movie. I want to do this, and he found a guy who was like, I'm into hard stuff. Like, so someone that matches Kubrick's insanity is like, wow, that's a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think every other film of Kubrick's was based on an existing story.
Yeah, he loves him a good book, right? He loves
Yeah.
him adapting his own, having his own vision, trying to make it better, which I think is like extremely arrogant, but also really cool. And like, if you have that confidence, go for it.
It is, yeah, it is funny. He's like, he'll read a story that he really likes and he'll think, yeah, I could make that. And then the first thing he does is completely gut the story and do it his way.
Yeah, and like, I've read The Shining, I've seen the movie, and I'm like, I kind of like what he did.
I tried to read A Clockwork Orange. I couldn't understand it.
Anthony Burgess is an insane writer. Yeah, I've read that book a couple times, and I'm like, he said what?
But the movie, weirdly, I could easily follow. It's the same dialogue, but I can see what he's doing. And like, oh, okay, so that means I'm going to rape this person. Okay, gotcha.
A bit of the old ultra violence. Yeah,
we got to one day.
Oh yeah, we'll video that one soon. I would love to do A Clockwork Orange. I'm obsessed with that one. It's one of those that you're like, I need an episode so I can explain myself, because I know I sound like a fucking weirdo. Sorry,
Yeah, you are invited. But
yeah. Yes, yeah.
So Clarke, after this, he wrote like 5 or 6 more books because he envisioned this as an entire like ongoing story that he wanted to keep exploring. So there's a few. There's 2010. And then he just like, they're all years, like 3052 or whatever. I don't know. I've only read the first book.
Yeah.
So Kubrick, basically, he wanted to avoid the usual space fare found in film. We talked about that, how goofy it used to look. He wanted to make something realistic. And he was heavily influenced by this 1960 animated short documentary he saw called Universe, which was hosted by Douglas Rain, who Kubrick hired to be the voice of HAL 9000. So he saw this and was like, oh, I'm going to take this apart and make a film out of it. And you're coming with me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. After Kubrick and Clarke met and discussed collaborating on a sci-fi project, they spent the next 4 years conceiving this. Like, they met and then they just bounced ideas back and forth until it became 2001: A Space Odyssey. That kind of patience is remarkable. I can understand that doing with like a close friend, but somebody you just met, like, let's spend the next 4 years building something. Holy shit.
Oh, interesting, because we did that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I can tolerate you.
Yeah, and we're not making a movie. We're talking about it.
Yes. That's a big part of it. Neither of us has an ego the size of Jupiter that's constantly getting in the way.
I definitely don't. I'm somewhere like along the lines of Pluto, not Jupiter.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever. Like, uprooting the whole show and like starting from scratch was like a 2-minute conversation.
Yeah, it was like clearly something that's been just racking around in both our brains, and then yeah, let's do it. Then we just did it, and here we are. Second watch, 2001.
Fucking great. Uh, they ended up using one of Clark's short stories called "The Sentinel" as a jumping off point, and that contained the monolith found on the moon and all that. So that became the seedling for 2001.
Love that scene. Fucking crazy how they made that. The moon looks so real. It's fucked up.
That's what the CIA thought.
Yeah, yeah. People still believe that shit to this day, man.
If anybody could have faked the moon landing accurately, it is Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, and if anyone was like dark enough to think that it was like funny, it's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, he's the only guy who could like make his masterpiece and then never admit that he did it.
Yeah, basically.
The work alone would be enough for him.
Yeah, like I'll just die and these guys will just have to talk about it. Yeah.
Oh my god. So in 1965, Kubrick announced this film as his follow-up to Dr. Strangelove under the title Journey Beyond the Stars, which is a terrible fucking title. I'm so glad they changed that.
Awful. Yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey is so, yeah, just kind of like, huh? You know, what? Especially in 1968. You're like, 2001, the new century? Like what? Yeah, it's like such a mind-boggling thing. Yeah, to the 2000s. Holy shit. I love that. And yeah, it's just genius. Yeah, that original title. Oof, boy, that's like a 5-year-old. Yeah.
Other considered titles were Universe, just straight up ripping off the documentary he watched. Tunnel to the Stars. That sounds like a ride at Disneyland. And Planetfall, which doesn't make any sense.
Planetfall sounds like a 2015 shitty like sci-fi action movie that stars like Aaron Eckhart.
Geostorm 2, Planetfall.
Yeah. Yeah, no thanks.
God. 2001: A Space Odyssey was ultimately chosen by Kubrick as an ode to Homer's epic poem, The Odyssey. He basically thought space is as Star Trek says, the final frontier. It's the last place of exploration we've got as a species. So a journey across the stars would be the idyllic odyssey of man in the future, which makes perfect sense. And I'm like, that's really good reasoning.
Yeah, no, it's right there for you. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. I bought the Odyssey at a Goodwill. I'm going to read it one day.
I have it too. I've had it for years, and I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, oh boy.
I know. I've got Dante's Divine Comedy. I've got all these like classic books that I like having, but when am I going to actually read these things?
Yeah, I have I don't read anything but like novels and like fiction. Like that's like all I read if I do read. And everything on my shelf is like something that I've seen that I'm like, oh yeah, I'll buy that because I heard this about it.
Well, I'll buy if I'm at Goodwill and I saw Brave New World for like $1.60 and I'm like, why not?
That's a good book. I have read that one. That's a damn good book. I read that because of Iron Maiden. Oh, Brave New World. I was like, I saw the book one day at like half price or something, and I was like, yeah, I'm cool. And I read it, and it was like, a lot of it went over my head, but I was like, it moved me. And when you read stuff in your late teenage years, your early 20s, and you read stuff that's kind of out there, it's like super formative and a great experience. So that's why I fucking sunk my teeth into Vonnegut like nobody's business when I was like 20, 21, 22. And it's formed a lot of who I am. And I owe that to him and to sci-fi for sure.
Beautiful. Yeah. I recently, how I've been doing my random film watches where I just have a randomizer. Well, yeah. I've started doing that with books, TV, and video games. Like,
oh my God.
I am no longer choosing anything. Fate is choosing my entertainment.
The universe is choosing it for you.
So as soon as my thesis is done, we're picking a book randomly, picking a video game randomly, we're picking a show. And the films will continue as is because I've been doing those like 3 or 4 a day.
Yeah. You've watched so this is a fun little story. So I was at work today earlier, and I was working with two of my best friends at work, and they were like, "Oh, like what's the last movie you watched?" And I was like, "2001: A Space Odyssey." Da 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 da. And then they were like, they know about Letterboxd, right? They one of them has it, one of them doesn't, but they like know about it. They're like, "Oh, how many are you at for this year?" And I was like, "Ah, like 80 something." And they're like, "Holy shit!" And like one of them was like, "I've watched like two movies this year," and I was like, "Dude, I have nothing." Like there's people out there. I was like, one of them I know. He's watched like 140. So, and they were like, "Where does he find the time?" I'm like, this is what he does, man. Like that's his passion. Like I have other things I love to do. I love watching sports, and right now basketball's coming down the wire. Baseball just started. Soccer's getting good. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And I was like, this guy chooses movies over that. So that's just how that's the way the cookie crumbles, man. And they're like, oh man, I thought I was a movie fan. I'm like, no, you aren't. No, you fucking aren't. You think you like movies? You're like, sure, that's cute, but and not just not just you, Connor, but there's people people that I follow on Letterboxd. And I'm like, oh my god, they're churning them out, man. Like, and just same as you, just random, just stuff like it's schizophrenic Letterboxd accounts, hundreds, over 100 movies already, and we're in April. So I love that. I love that about Letterboxd, being able to track people that I follow, especially friends. Be like, oh, what are they up to? And I'm like, oh, this person's watched one movie a week. Come on, man. And then there's Connor, 3 or 4 a day. Just boom, boom,
I'm
boom.
I'm McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street. You got to crank those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. Come on, like
There's a rookie now. Yeah, I'm a rookie as far as I'm concerned. Not compared to some people, but like in the world of cinephiles, I'm definitely doing like a one a day. I'm like about one a day after 3 months. I'm close to 90. That's where I'm at.
I I'm enjoying the randomizer thing mainly because now if a movie sucks, I don't feel that bad about it because it's not like I picked it. Like
For
I didn't
sure.
waste my own time, so it's no longer like that big a deal.
Yeah, and you talked to me about doing this, and um, man, it's hard. It's hard for me to. It's hard for me because I don't watch as much. So I usually watch a movie at night from like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. That's like my window for a movie, right? And it's like that's it for the whole day. Like I don't get a second chance. Like that's if I don't like it, like fuck, that sucks because that was the one movie I got to watch tonight. And so it's very rare. Maybe on my off days, I'll watch like a couple and I'll kind of do something random where like some old Disney movie that I haven't seen in a while. But I'm usually like, all right, I want to like I watched the three John Wicks in a like back to back, like 3 nights in a row. And I was like, I feel good about that. Those were three good fucking nights. And then I watched Space Odyssey and watched Point Break. So like I'm like, that's a good 5 days in a row. I'm good with that. I have a hard time being like, let's just leave it up to fate because what if they pick a movie that I'm like, no, this is Tuesday, and this Tuesday's important.
See, I just, I find myself with so much time. And with that time, I got to do something with it. So,
Of
I,
course.
yeah, I fill out that time with randomly chosen movies. And admittedly, I've already started the randomizer for video games and television. Uh, it's been a blast. Books have been difficult because thesis, but that's almost finished. And then once I can do that, once I can start reading stuff for fun again, I have hundreds of books that I've been stockpiling for just such an occasion.
Yeah, that's a great feeling, right? When you get to read again. Oh man.
Oh,
Oof, I
yeah.
miss reading so much. Yeah.
Oh boy, where were we? Okay, so yeah, that was fun.
I don't even know what led to that.
I don't either.
Whatever.
So the plan was to write a novel together, then write the screenplay together, but both entities were going to be entirely separate and not based on each other, but that didn't happen because that's impossible. So they both just kind of stayed in their lane. Kubrick wrote his screenplay, Clark wrote his book. They talked to each other randomly about like, hey, Dave was the guy's name, right? It's like, yeah, Dave. All right, so Dave. Okay, cool. And stuff like that. Keep it relatively in the same lane, but there are some pretty big differences. The book is very much, it goes more into the details of why this is happening,
Yeah.
why Hal's malfunctioning, what his like plan is for the ship, where Dave goes when he enters the monolith. Like it explains a lot more, which I like, but it doesn't explain all of it. It's still very conceptual, but it does give you more of a frame, which is nice.
Yeah.
Early on, there was surprise tension between the two writers. Turns out when you've got one idea that two very intense writers are taking in slightly different directions, there's going to be pushback. Uh, Kubrick was apparently so dissatisfied with Clarke's approach that he immediately sought out other writers to replace him. Like, as soon as they started writing, he was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I can't work with him. Get me someone else. And every other sci-fi writer in the business refused to take the gig out of loyalty to Clarke.
Oh, that's so cool.
So Kubrick was like, well, shit, I guess I got to deal with you. And Arthur's like, yeah, I love you too, Stan.
Yeah. Stan. Get a little of that Stan character.
I bet he hated that. I bet he was always Stanley or Sir.
Yeah, Mr. Coob. Yeah.
Mr. Coob, there goes your job.
Oh yeah. Oh, I would I would have fun like just trying to troll Stan.
You just try to get him to explode at the most innocuous shit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Wouldn't be hard.
Yeah, I feel like Kubrick's obviously one of those guys who's like so clearly a perfectionist. But even he, in this movie, even he let like poetry take its place a few times. Like a few times he like let continuity errors or like just filmmaking errors, like the leopard to the at the beginning of the movie when it's around all the apes and they found a dead horse at a zoo that they like got donated and they painted it to look like a zebra, which is like, wow. I mean, good God, the commitment is on another level. The leopard, though, if you pause it, I knew this before I watched it this time, so I did it. I paused it. You can see like the light from the projector, the camera that they were using, and apparently Kubrick at first was like, "What the fuck?" And then they were like, "Hey, man, like I actually think like that's kind of neat." And he was like, he like saw the poetry in it and was like, "All right, let's keep it. Let's keep that. Let's not cut it." Crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
Are you telling me that Stanley Kubrick,
Stan,
a perfectionist to the point of mental illness, put the film before himself?
Yeah. How about that, man?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think he could do that. That's amazing.
Me neither. This is the first instance I've ever heard that. So pretty crazy.
I guess he lost it on Barry Lyndon because that shit was nowhere present in The Shining.
Yeah, no fucking kidding, man. God, anytime I watch a Kubrick movie, I'm like, I think I want to watch all of his movies now. Like I was like, I haven't seen Strangelove in years. I haven't seen Clockwork Orange in like a year. I haven't seen The Shining in maybe a year. So like, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to just watch all of his movies again.
Yeah, I have that beautiful Criterion Blu-ray of Doctor Strangelove. I got it Amoeba in LA that I haven't opened yet.
Ooh,
maybe it's time.
Just waiting for you. I love that movie, man. Oh my God. It's just so fun.
Oh, fantastic. So once they, agreed, you stay in your studio, I'll stay in mine, and we'll talk when we have to approach to this. They ended up talking to Carl Sagan, famous astronomer, used to have that. I think he had a show in the 60s where it's like, he was the Mr. Rogers of space, basically.
Yeah. Good. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. They asked him how best to depict alien life on camera because they didn't want just, guy in a, rubber suit with a laser gun. They wanted a more realistic approach to extraterrestrial intelligence. And Sagan told them that alien organisms would likely bear little to no resemblance to human beings. And depicting that is next to impossible. So it might be best to simply suggest a sort of alien super intelligence rather than try to depict actual beings. So Carl Sagan is to praise for that decision.
And not that decision for just this movie, but that decision for movies that come the next couple decades, right? You think about what Spielberg did in the late 70s. Thank you. Thank you for that, right? That's so genius. Like the less is more idea. I read something similar to that about Carl, and that they were for a while. It was Kubrick, his wife, and Arthur were like building like clay models. Especially Kubrick's wife was like trying to figure out like, okay, what would they look like, this and that, and they like ended up looking like gargoyles. And when that happened, when Carl was like, all right, like no, like don't try, because when you try, it's going to look phony. And the Kubricks, I think their oldest daughter said that at their like apartment in London, like outside in the garden, they just had like the gargoyle models lined up around the garden. Like, fuck, I want one of those. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want a Kubrick gargoyle. That's
yeah. I
cool.
want to. I think her name's Christiane. His wife, I think that's what her name was. And I'm like, I would love to have a Christiane, handcrafted mini gargoyle that was intended to be an alien for 2001: A Space Odyssey. That sounds great.
Are there photographs of these? I'd love to see these.
I don't know. Honestly, I could have. I got like lost earlier today doing research on this movie, and I was just like, man, there's so much. There's so many articles, so many different things about this, the making of it, so many documentaries. I was like, shit, I could do a lot. And I have no problem with it, even though it's not one of like my favorite movies of all time. I respect it so much and like what it did at the time that it came out, that I'm obsessed with learning about how did this happen? How did they do some of these shots in this movie? Some of the practical effects. Like I just want to know. I always feel that way when I see a sci-fi or horror movie that I'm like, what? Uh, Please show me the art of this. And that can be done, man. You can dive into this movie and get lost for a month straight.
Yeah, I saw a lot of docs and a lot of books written about this thing because this is it didn't happen. You didn't. People don't always change the game. The game changers stand out because people are
Yeah,
thinking in ways they've never thought before, and that's going to stay with people forever. Star Wars is probably the next sci-fi movie that did that, and you know, we'll never stop talking about fucking Star Wars.
no, no, God, hell no.
So it's kind of neat. It's cool. I wonder, I guess Avatar, probably the most recent sci-fi movie to kind of stay in the, make people think like, what was that? But it didn't have the same kind, just visually, at least.
Yeah, it doesn't have any like. What did they mean by that? Yeah, it doesn't have any of those moments. It's pretty basic story. It's like, oh, Pocahontas, all right.
Yeah.
Like we've seen this before. 2001 is like, this guy has a different take. This guy has a different take. This guy thinks it's about religion. This guy thinks it's about evolution. All these different ideas. And like that's what's fucking cool about it.
Yeah, true. I thought this was just fucking mean. So the film music was supposed to be temporary. It's all classical pieces, and it was used as a placeholder while composer Alex North wrote a score. So all the film music was just like, let's keep it there until we can get something that's ours. But Kubrick was like, you know what? I like the temporary music. We're going to keep that. But guess what? Guess who he didn't tell? Alex North.
Alex.
Yeah, North found out at the premiere while he's watching the movie, and not his music starts playing, and he's like, "Wait a minute, what? Why?"
Yeah, good God, man. I mean, infuriating. Like, just I would love to hear that score though. I would love to hear
There's
that. Is it somewhere? Is it somewhere I can?
there's been pieces of it have been uploaded to YouTube. Like people have rescored the parts of the film with his music, and I gotta
Okay.
say, I prefer the classical music too. It adds a certain like
Dude,
universal availability to the film.
yeah. Yeah, it's like so silly at times, but but so necessary. When I was watching it, my wife was asleep, and then she woke up at one point and was like, what are you watching?" And I was like, 2001: Space Odyssey, 1968. Stanley the Freak Kubrick. And she was like, I've heard that song in like 4,000 other movies, the dun, 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 dun. And yeah. And she was like, I've seen it like in cartoons. And I was like, yeah. I was like, this is kind of where it started, like over 50 years ago. And she was like, I kind of want to watch this, because Brown is like obsessed with space and is like an astrology freak. Like she loves reading about all that stuff. So I was like, you should in your own time. Like, I don't think I want to watch it that soon after I've seen it, but I was like, you should take some time to like watch it. Cause I do think she would dig a lot of it. And would be fascinated just by the spectacle, just the sheer spectacle and the music, how kind of like jolly it is at times. You're like, ah, look at the moon. You just feel like a little kid. It's cool.
Yeah, well, for everyone involved, this is a pretty pleasant experience until Hal starts murdering people. Like,
Yeah, and Hal. Oh, I can't wait to talk about Hal. Yeah, best
uh,
character of the goddamn movie.
fucking only character of the goddamn movie for the most part.
Only character that has like emotions. Yeah,
Uh,
he's a fucking robot.
so I thought this was hilarious. At the premiere screening, 241 people walked out of the theater, including
Yeah,
including
crazy.
actor Rock Hudson, who said, and I quote, "Will someone tell me what the hell this is about?"
Yeah, Rock Hudson. That's such. I can just picture him like this man, this masculine. Like, what the fuck am I watching? I'm Hollywood, bitch. You know.
Oh
I love
boy,
that.
yeah. And Arthur C. Clarke, he was there. He was like, oh boy, and he said, "If you understand 2001 completely, we failed. We wanted to raise far more
Mm.
questions than we answered." With that, I'm like, ugh. Like as a writer, I'm like, why would you want to do that? To me, that's
That's that.
if I write something and no one knows what the fuck's going on, I feel like I failed as a writer.
That's that right there. I love that. That's like the fundamental difference in us as you and I as viewers. Like I love David Lynch. You know, like I love guys that are just like figure it out. I pass it to you. I'm not going to tell you what's going on. Like I love that. I read one interview. It's pretty rare, and I don't know why it's rare, but Kubrick does explains like what he thinks the movie is, but he's like, I don't really know. He's like, but this is what I think I meant by it, and the point is that you guys should figure it out on your own, like for yourself, you know. And there's beauty in that, and there's also just total fucking anarchy. It's just like every man for himself, you know. It's not telling you what you're watching. It doesn't have any like moral, compass. It's just like, here, take it. And I love stuff like that. And you hate it.
This this pass the buck bullshit of like, I don't know, you
Yeah.
figure it out. No, you wrote it. It's your job to tell me what this is. It's my job to understand
Yeah, I totally understand. It's definitely a mindset of buy the ticket, take the ride, and don't ask where we're going. Destination does not matter. You're here for the ride.
I can't wrap my head around that. I just can't.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I know, and it's annoying sometimes because
It is.
because here I am, like here's like I'll spend so much of my mind capacity on a film, and I have a hard time moving on from that film. Anytime I watch like Mulholland Drive, I'm like stuck in it for like a week after, and I have a hard time watching anything else. Like it's still, I've seen the movie like 20 times, and I'm like, man, I just fuck, what is it? you know, and that's just power. That's like the power like a filmmaker like that has over me.
Yeah, see, I guess maybe it's because I watch so many different things at once. I don't really stay in a certain like one filmmaker's lane anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch today. I watched A Good Day to Die Hard, Along Came Polly,
Fuck yeah!
and about half of Raiders of the Lost Ark. So, like,
Wow.
to stay in those worlds all at the same time would put me in a fucking mental ward. So I think my brain has
Yeah.
learned once the hour and a half or 2 hours or however long the film is, once those are up and I've written up my blurb, we're done. It's like you're out, move on to the next one. Like I have that ability and I'm so thankful I do. I mean, occasionally one slips through and it's like, the fuck. So that does happen sometimes, but
Yeah.
very rarely.
Yeah. It only happens when I'm like rocked by something, or even something that I feel like I do have a hold on. It can stay there for a while, and I'll watch something else, but my mind might not be totally in it, or my heart might not be totally in it. And it happens every time I watch something from someone I love. If I watch Whiplash, I'm like, man, like no movie's going to be able to follow that shit up. What am I going to do? But I admire both ways of watching, and I can do the like knockout three in one day, like you like random just stuff, especially if it's a movie like Good Day to Die Hard, where you're like, I don't need to think about this. And Along Came Polly is like sheer like strictly there for entertainment, just like here you go, eat some popcorn, hang out, watch one of PSH's most incredible performances, just total heat check on the basketball court performances, and then Raiders, which is like, okay, like this is a movie, it's a proper film, and I will think about it and have a good time.
Yeah, maybe it is. It's a quality thing. If I'm gonna, I can eat 3 candy bars in a sitting. I'm not gonna be able to sit through like 3 4 course meals. So it is.
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
I could do a David Lynch, 3 in a row, or a Paul Thomas
Oh,
Anderson 3 in a row. Like I gotta space
I
that
don't
shit
even
out.
I don't even do that. I have no problem like watching like Kubrick, Strange Love one night, Full Metal Jacket the next night, but 3 in a row, like Eyes Wide Shut, Clockwork Orange, Space Odyssey, like fuck me, I can't, I don't have it in me, no way.
Yeah, like a long time ago, when during the beginnings of Filmgasm, when we were in like Roman Polanski for like a month, it
It's rough.
it was creeping on me. It was starting to, I was
It,
thinking, yeah, this is an unpleasant world I have to live in right now.
yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, when you uh stranglehold yourself like you're watching Habits, it is like dangerous. I love like a mini collection. Like I love when Criterion does like 3 films by this filmmaker. I'm like, oh, that's attainable. I can do those like in 2 or 3 nights. That sounds nice, and that's a good way of like exploring a director without losing your mind. I love when they do stuff like that. I think Criterion's really good at kind of accumulating and building collections that are attainable but also challenging. Like here's 3 films by Celine Sciamma, a French filmmaker who's got awesome movies, but they're also accessible and like an hour and a half, and you're gonna laugh, cry, they're just good movies. So like I love that. But yeah, that Polanski thing we did was like the most ambitious thing we've ever done, and it was like one of the first things we did.
Well, whenever we wanted to jump in the deep end, but we didn't quite learn more than one way to swim.
Yeah, and we thought it was like 8 feet deep, and it was more like 35 feet deep. We went off the diving board, and we sunk, and we were like, oh boy, yeah, yeah.
It took, this whole experiment has been a major source of growth, and I'm just happy we figured our way to a manageable place.
For sure, yeah. I love the fact that you and I, the episodes we've done back to back are Lebowski and Space Odyssey, like 1998, 1968, 35-year anniversary, or 25, sorry, and 55. Like, I love that. I love that we just kind of did that, and we didn't really think too much about it. And one that we both seen a shit ton and love and could talk about all day. And a Space Odyssey, one we're both kind of like this is tough to grapple with, but it's also, I get it, I respect it, and we can still talk about it for all fucking day. It's cool.
It is cool. It's cool. Oh, okay. So Clark would later express some concern that the film was pretty hard to follow, and he was kind of regretted that. So that's why he decided to write more books to kind of plot the course and help people figure this out, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to read all those books. If I watch a movie I didn't understand, I'm not then going to go read like 8 books so I can figure it out.
Yeah, that's a special kind of nerd right there. Yeah.
Yes, it is. uh, Kubrick was actually tracking NASA's race to the moon, which I love this. He was worried it was going to siphon some of the wonder from his production. He was like, fucking real life moon landing is going to happen, and then people are going to be as excited about my movie.
Crazy, man.
That is the most egocentric statement I've ever heard in my life. Like, this achievement of mankind is going to overshadow my film. It's not surprising. It's just like, I love that he was vocal about that. He's like, how dare the moon landing and interfere with my production?
It's only him, you know. That competitive nature is bonkers.
Religious people were like probably like, oh, it's an affront to God. Well, God was in England and he agreed with you.
Oh, jeez. I love that. That's a t-shirt.
This if this guy didn't have a camera, like he would have been committed and just like been screaming at a wall somewhere. Like this guy was crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he first became was a photographer when he was younger, and it's like whoever gave him that camera started just created a monster.
I'm sure whoever gave him that camera probably saved some lives.
That too, right? Yeah, it goes both ways. You're right.
Yeah, unreal. Oh, so 2001: A Space Odyssey has an IMDb score of 8.3,
Oof, solid. Jesus,
Rotten Tomatoes score of 91%.
I thought it'd be higher. Okay.
Yeah, there's a few people like me out there.
Yeah.
Critics' consensus reads one of the most influential of all sci-fi films and one of the most controversial. Stanley Kubrick's 2001 is a delicate, poetic meditation on the ingenuity and folly of mankind. Ooh.
Yeah, spooky.
Well done, staff writers. I'm sure somebody wrote that and was like, "Oh, Bill, you got to see this."
Yeah.
Look at that, right? Look at that.
Take that upstairs, man. Yeah, they're gonna love this. And then there's some of those like snippets that are like so bad. It's like everybody just had the day off that day. All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know who's the critic who gets to write the consensus and how did they get that consensus? Yeah, whatever.
No idea.
It's a fun blurb to throw at the end of our production segment.
It is. It's always fun because sometimes you get pure comedy out of it.
The film grossed 146 million on a budget of 10.5 million. Thank you, stoners.
Yeah. Thank you, hippies of the late 60s and early 70s for coming out.
Yeah. All the star children came out to see their god.
Yeah, it's God. I love that. So I would like if I could be at any screening ever, it's probably that.
You had a time machine. It's the first place you'd go.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there, and I just learned about it. There's so many cool things I could revisit, but to watch like a young guy like in a tank top and fucking swim trunks run through a screen in Los Angeles and claim that he just saw God while watching a movie. Fuck yeah. And ruining it for everybody else because the screen broke. Yeah. Oh, what a guy.
We're talking like cinematically. I think if I had a time machine, I'd go back to 1960 and go to one of the early screenings of Psycho where nobody knew what was going to happen. And I'd watch people lose their fucking minds.
Oh God, that'd be a fun thing to just talk about for like a couple hours. It's like one of like the 10 screenings you'd want to go to. That'd be fun, dude. That's a good idea.
That's a filmgasm.
Yeah, it's raging. Yeah, I would love to do that. Even something as simple as like July 1975, seeing Jaws with the people, with the families. Like that'd be so sick. Just being a fucking American, Yeah,
I want to go back in time to like the 1890s and watch people like have a collective seizure when like that video, like the first ever film of like footage of a train coming, and they were like, "Oh my God!" Like they thought the train was gonna fucking fly out of the screen and kill everybody, so they went insane and were like, "We gotta get out of here!" And then they're like, "Moving pictures? What's this?"
Yeah, what's this?
Love to see
tomfoolery. Yeah. Oh yeah. It'd be cool if you could like track the history of film, like go to like the 1890s, like 1920s, kind of jump around and watch it as it's unfolded.
I definitely go back and tell people preserve this shit. Don't just throw it in a back room somewhere. We're gonna lose it.
Yeah, straight up, man. Straight up. Oh, God, that'd be cool.
There is one Oscar-winning performance that no longer exists. We'll never be able. Emil Jannings, 1927, The Way of All Flesh. That film has been lost to time. It does not exist. The only footage of it left are like a few clips of the beginning and the end that you can find on YouTube. But the whole film has been lost. It's gone.
Ugh, that's so sad.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's like the one we'll never be able to finish off that like particular milestone unless somebody finds a copy of The Way of All Flesh.
Which, yeah, who's holding out? Yeah, Kubrick.
I'm sure in some Nazi basement somewhere, someone's got an Emil Jannings film collection that is in there. It's in there.
Oh God. Oh, that's incredible. I had no idea. That's a good Oscar. That's a good piece of Oscar trivia. Yeah.
Speaking of Oscars, 2001 was nominated for 4, winning 1. It won visual effects, which deserved that.
Yeah, I mean it's the like best visual effects like of the 20th century. So yeah.
And that's the only Oscar Kubrick ever won in his career was for visual effects.
It's insane.
He was also nominated for Best Director for Kubrick, Best Art Direction, and most puzzlingly, Best Original Screenplay for Kubrick and Clarke together.
Yeah, that one's a bit puzzling, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like where? What screenplay? Like, I bet that the screenplay itself was probably like 15 pages.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a total of if you add it all up, it's 40 minutes of dialogue and 100, or 100 100 minutes of silence or music or whatever.
Jesus H. Christ.
It's insane, man. That's a crazy ratio.
Yeah. A lot of alarms too. Like a lot of alarms in this movie. Like I kept freaking out my dogs.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's like a shrieking noise that if your volume's up, you're like, oh fuck me. You gotta turn it down. And yeah, there's multiple instances of just like like shrieking, uncomfortable just noise.
Yeah.
And then and then there's the moments of silence are also just like get me out of here, like just unsettling. Space is freaky as fuck, like just moments like that.
Yeah. It does make the thing like films like Star Wars and Star Trek, they make space seem like very accessible, very it's just a 2-hour flight to the next planet. But 2001 is like, no, it's going to take a few years. Space is mostly just a void of darkness, and it's freaky to think about that.
Yeah, I've always loved that part of this movie when they see the monolith on the moon, and then it's 18 months later where they're like finally on this mission to Jupiter. All right, that's like, yeah, that feels real.
Yeah, very much so. There was a sequel. One of Clarke's books did make it into production, 1984's 2010, The Year We Make Contact. A rescue team is sent to Jupiter to uncover what went wrong with the Discovery mission, particularly with HAL 9000. The film has a loaded cast, including Roy Scheider, Helen Mirren, John Lithgow, and the return of Keir Dullea as Dave Bowman and Douglas Rain as HAL 9000. I put it in my list. Yeah. I'm curious.
Yeah, that's a rainy day one. Like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, that was up for 5 Oscars, one more than 2001.
Isn't that crazy? Right? How that happens?
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. I was thinking with your boy Roy Scheider there. Figured you'd be on board. Like,
oh yeah, I love me some Roy, love me some Lithgow. Oh my god, so, and Helen Mirren, she's not too bad either. So it's a fun cast.
Yeah.
What year is it?
1984. Took a while.
Okay, 84. I like that. That's an interesting time for 16 years later. I like that.
Yeah, I'm sure the year 1984. People were thinking of futuristic sci-fi. Probably a lot.
Yep. That's for some guy Orwell. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never read any Orwell. I gotta change that.
Oh, you should read that book. Yeah, it's just like a staple. It's good.
That shit. And Fahrenheit 451 I want to read, and of course, Animal Farm.
Yeah, Animal Farm is like quick as shit. You could do that in a day. Yeah, it's a very easy book to just breeze through, but also like got some awesome ideas. I haven't read Fahrenheit. I was supposed to read that in school, like when I was like a freshman, and I was like, "Fuck this." But then when I was like gone from high school, I saw Animal Farm for like $1 somewhere, and I was like, "Oh, I'll read this," and I read it like in a day, and then I read 1984 in my own time a few years back, and I was like, "Yeah, this is great." People were right.
It is a completely different animal when you're choosing your own books to read than when somebody's telling you to read it. Completely different animal.
Yeah, and just the nature of like what teachers try to force you to do when you're reading rather than just find your own interpretation and your own like joy in it. You like have to turn in like you have to like take quizzes on certain chapters and turn in papers on it. It's like I don't want to do that. I want to enjoy the fucking entertainment, not not answer your dumb question that you made up from your interpretation when your interpretation's wrong. I hate that idea. Like as I'm 15, let me just enjoy the let me enjoy the entertainment.
I read somewhere, or I heard somewhere this quote: "The best teachers are the ones who tell you where to look, but they don't tell you what to see."
100%.
That's my
100%.
teaching
I
philosophy right there.
wish
I'll,
I had some fucking teachers like that. I did not.
yeah. Cool thing about like living in a college town is people drop classics off at my local Goodwill all the time. People who are done
Yeah.
with their classes and they're like, I don't want this shit in my house anymore. So I'll scoop up great books for like a couple bucks all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great, man. And people are so disinterested in paperback nowadays. They're just like, oh, I can just read it on my fucking Kindle.
Yeah.
I will never read a book on my phone, Kindle. I will never read a book through a screen ever.
No. It's great having a collection of like 1,500 digital books until, your daughter like drops it in the toilet or something. It's like, well,
I just can't. I just can't do it. Turning the pages is like the
yeah.
most fun thing. Yeah.
Feeling the weight of the book, looking and seeing how far you are in it, like the grain
Yeah.
of the paper. Reading a
Ah.
book is an experience.
And especially like a book that's passed down. Like I have some books that I've bought. Like if you go to half price, there's like 40 copies of Catcher in the Rye. If you look through all of them, you might find some kind of note at the front or some kind of like letter that someone wrote if they gave it to somebody else. And I'm like, that's interesting to me. I love stuff like that. So I'll always look if I'm buying a book that there's multiple copies of it. I'm like, I'm gonna find the one that speaks to me, you know.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've got a very worn red paperback copy of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that I received from a great friend once.
Pretty good book.
Yeah, it was a great book.
Yeah, God, yeah, that one's just. I have my copy here, but like, yeah, that one means a lot. Yeah, it's one of those I read very quickly because of the movie, and then you put them together, and you're like, oh wow, this is great. Good job, Milos Forman.
Straight up. 2001 is currently streaming on HBO Max if you do want to watch it for yourself. So there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, this is one of the all-time. You can find it at any given moment. It's going to be around forever.
100%. So with that, let's give this film some awards.
Here we go. Here we go.
We have the Quentin Tarantino Award for the best line or quote of the film. We have the Thomas Newman Award for the best music moment of the film. We have the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award for the best performance of the film and the John Carpenter Award for the best scene of the film. So why don't you start us out with your Tarantino Award?
So like like we've said, there's not like a lot of a lot of dialogue there, but my favorite like line reading is definitely Hal, because Hal has these different. Hal is less robotic than the human characters in the movie. Hal has like Hal has moments where he's about to die, where he's like, I can feel it, I'm afraid, and he's got moments where he's like an arrogant piece of shit, like, just what do you think you're doing, and he's got like a real emotions, he when he's talking to Frank, and he's like, oh, you did a drawing. And like Frank draws all these motherfuckers on the ship except for Hal. And Hal's like, what the fuck, man? I'm here too. These people keep doing stuff to Hal. They don't want to play chess against him because he'll beat their ass, in chess. So they're like, yeah, fuck you, we're not playing with you. Hal is eventually like, fuck all of you. I'm gonna kill every last one of you until I'm the last one on the ship. So I love like that part of Hal. And I love his different kind of like voices, even though it's all obviously computer, but there's like difference in the way he talks, like in different scenes. My favorite is the classic line, I'm putting myself to the fullest possible use, which is all I think that any conscious entity can ever hope to do. It's like such an awesome fucking thing for this villain of this movie to say, right? It's obviously foreboding, and you're like, wow, this thing's scary. Pal 9000. they wanted to name it IMB, but they couldn't. They wanted to name it after a real company, and they were like, "No, fuck no." IBM, sorry, IBM. And the company was like, you can't do that because it's like a villain." And Kubrick like accidentally spilled the beans about that. Was like, "Oh shit," like because that would have added like a more real element to it. This is like a thing that's going to be around. This company, it's like a game changer when it comes to technology. And they're like, "No, you have to change it." So he found 3 different letters, and HAL is what they went with.
Yeah, it needs a name, even if it's a computerized, acronym name. It's an artificial intelligence. It's great. It's the only one truly aware of what this mission is.
Yep.
Which is crazy. They didn't think to tell the human astronauts on this mission what this is, but they trusted everything to the AI and said they told the thing, the mission matters above all else. You don't say that shit to a robot.
No. Yeah. It's remarkable. It's remarkable stuff. So like that segment, the journey to Jupiter, is like, in my opinion, just by so far the best part of the movie, because that's when you get substance plus visual, like spectacular visual stuff. The stuff inside the space station, inside the pods, you're like, my God, this is mind-boggling how they made all this stuff work and how cool it looks, how iconic it all is. And you get pretty good dialogue at times. The lip reading scene, fucking sick. Like when Frank and Dave are talking to each other, and Hal is watching them and starts reading their lips. Like, so cool. Such a great scene in this movie where it's quiet. You can see them talking. You can see Hal is like, "I got you, bastards." It's so good. And so like that segment of the movie like raises this thing up.
Oh, I agree. It's the only part that I'm going to really be focusing on here.
So with that being said, like the whole ape beginning is like just not for you at all.
The ape part, I don't mind. I like the idea. The book explains it better because it goes into like, Moonwatcher or whatever is hungry, but now he's thinking of other things like how to use this bone. It's like, oh, okay, so it's learning. Gotcha, Arthur. Nice. But yeah.
I love the use of the bone. Like that we go from weapon to weapon. Like we like constantly are like fucking ourselves over.
Yeah, the first act of humanity on this planet was beating the shit out of something.
Yeah.
I love that.
And like tribalism, where like there's apes versus apes, humans versus humans, is like obviously what we've been doing forever. So that stuff's cool.
Yeah. My line is also from Hal.
Yeah, he's got the best shit.
The eternally never blinking red eye of Hal 9000, always watching, always present. It's creepy. It's when Dave decides, I got to shut this fucker down. And he gets into the, he puts his suit on, he gets into the Hal's brain, if you want to call it that. And Hal starts trying to talk him off the ledge. And he says, "Look, Dave, I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over."
I love that stress pill.
Yeah. And Dave's just like, "Sure thing, Hal," as he's unplugging shit.
Yeah.
I love that Hal's like, buddy, come on. Like, that's basically what he's doing. He's pleading for his life in the way that he can do it. And he's like, "Can't, like, just chill, have a pill, think it through. Like, do I need to die for this?" And Dave's like, 100%. Yeah. you need to die for this.
Yeah, you've killed everybody. It's just me now. So
yeah, fucking crazy. But yeah, I love that line where he's just like, "Come on, man. I fucked up. We've all done it."
If you're Dave in that scenario, are you like, okay, I need to kill this thing, like disconnect it and do this all on my own? Or are you like, okay, now like I need to lean on this thing even more because I don't know like how I'm gonna like return home?
Well, see, if I were Dave,
which God forbid I'm ever, in that situation.
I refuse to go in the ocean now. You think you're gonna find my ass in outer space? But if there's a vast darkness and I can't see past it, I'm not going in there. That's my rule.
Good.
But, I would have to disconnect Hal immediately because the whole thing is like, yeah, if I, I might be able to work something out with him if he, to try to stay alive because I don't know if I can do this by myself. But here's the thing: he doesn't need me in the slightest. He could kill me as soon as he has an opportunity, and he will because now I am a threat to his well-being, and his well-being is protecting the mission. So I'm gonna die if I give this thing an inch. And Dave's thinking that he's like, I can't let up, or I'm gonna die. And all he wants to do is, at this point, see Earth again.
Yeah, it's tough. I feel like part of me would be like, I'm gonna do whatever Hal says until I get home.
Not going home. Home's not the mission.
Yeah, no, it's not. But maybe till the mission's over, and I don't know. It's such a Dave's in such a fucking shitty spot.
Yeah, it's figure my way out to Jupiter alone, or live potentially with a homicidal robot that's already killed everybody I know.
Yeah, and like Frank is his buddy. Like they're buds, and so he kills Frank. Like he just straight up, no mercy kills Frank, and is like, I'll just set him adrift. I just don't care. I love that shot of the yellow suit, boom, 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 just rolling. It's like, oh god, that sucks.
Yeah, I remember thinking like, Quaron clearly watched this, didn't
he? Yeah, yeah. I think who was it? Who's the motherfucker that made Ad Astra? What is his name? Damn it!
Here, I'm looking it up.
I keep wanting to say James Mangold, but that is just not it.
James Gray.
James Gray. There we go. James. I think it was a James. Yeah, I think he might have watched this movie too at some point. I mean, it did just on the director's poll for Sight and Sound get #1 voted by like 480 directors around the world. Like, I think they like this movie. Those directors.
Are we ever gonna get a #1 movie that like deserves it?
Well, Sight and Sound for a long time was Citizen Kane, right? That movie's pretty good. I like that one. It's just so hard. Like, you're calling a movie the best of all time is like you just can't do it. It's impossible.
There's too much now. All time has too much. There's too many contenders. Everyone's taste is different. My top 10 is vastly different. So yeah,
right, yeah, exactly. That's like the beauty of it, and also the fun of like list making is like, oh, let me see what these people think. Like collectively they voted. I do like seeing that because you're like, oh, 480 directors. That's a lot of fucking people. Where most of them had 2001 as their favorite movie. Crazy.
I guess from a director standpoint, when you're definitely thinking about different things. I agree. Like, I'd love to see what the screenwriters vote.
Yeah, if you're James Gray, and that's what you do. You direct films. You make movies. You have to be in awe. Like, you just have to be. Like, as far as this medium of filmmaking, you watch 2001, you're like, I can't do that. So that makes it better. We look at movies way differently than those people do.
It's true. I didn't like Ad Astra either.
Yeah, I've only seen it the one time in theaters. I would love to rewatch it because I have a buddy who's like, dude, you got to see it again. You got to see it for a second time. And I'm like, I know. I know. I also love Brad Pitt, so like I'm okay with rewatching it. I love Tommy Lee Jones. I'll give it another go one day. Just not now.
Yeah. Ever since Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, anytime I don't like a horror movie, Caleb's like, I'll just watch it again. It's not universal. It's not universal.
It's not. It doesn't mean every time you watch a movie a second time, you're like, I
made a list. I made a Letterboxd list to see how many times this happened. I can tell you right now. I think it's like 15 at that. 25. It's happened 25 times.
Out of,
3,000 movies.
25 times you've watched the movie for a second time and changed your mind.
Yes.
Positively.
Positively is the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of times now when I watch something that maybe I liked 10 years ago, I watch it now and I'm like, oh, I was a teenager. So
yeah. 18-year-old Connor didn't know shit.
18-year-old Austin was a fucking moron. I'm okay with admitting it. Jesus.
I was
I
arrogant. I'm
li-
like, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a great teacher. I know what I'm doing. I don't have to study. You fucking idiot. You set us back so many years.
yeah.
I wish I
know,
could kick his ass. I really do.
like in Shawshank when Morgan Freeman's like, I like to talk to him, talk some sense into him. Whenever he says that, I'm like, I want to fucking strangle his ass.
Yeah. Like, why did you make those decisions? Good God, she never liked you, you son of a bitch. Why?
Yeah, Morgan Freeman's so calm and like, yeah, like I just want to, give him a pep talk. Like, I want to fucking punch him in the face.
There will be bruises.
Yeah, there will be blood. Yeah,
We obviously shouldn't have time machines because we would erase our own existences by accident.
probably. Yeah, because like previous us at age 18 would be like, fuck you, like I can take you on. Yeah, future me, let's go. you know,
Oh Jesus. Okay.
let me like American Hustle, bitch. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We got the Thomas Newman Award for the best music moment. Definitely a lot to pick from here, especially if you're a fan of classical. What do you got?
Blue Danube. Dun, 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 dun. I have to. It plays multiple times. It just makes me smile ear to ear, but it's also like eerie in this movie, and has been parodied like 1,000 times. And every time I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like you can trace it back to this piece of art,
Yeah.
But man, there's some great stuff. I mean, the opening is just fucking awesome.
Blue Danube, unfortunately, has been completely ruined for me by the film Nutty Professor 2, The Clumps, where
Haven't seen that one. Yeah.
got to hear Eddie Murphy do that whole damn thing with farts. So thank you, Eddie Murphy.
That just sounds gross.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'll skip that movie.
It's a scene that manages to ruin Armageddon, 2001, and Star Wars all in the span of about 5 minutes.
What a miserable movie.
Hey, so I went with, I mean, it's the most iconic bit of music from the movie. It is the opening. Also, Sprach Zarathustra by Carl Bohm.
Yeah,
Holy
it's just
fuck. It has been parodied to death now, but at the time, whew, I mean, what an
dude.
intense way to get you like seated.
Dun, dun. Yeah, just
like this a Stanley Kubrick production. You're like,
yeah,
right it is.
I love that. It's just like just that's just so sick. Yeah, you can't get better than that as far as an opening piece of soundtrack or score in a movie. It's like the most like pretentious thing, but also the most badass at the same time. It's really cool.
It is. It's basically, Kubrick atop the mountain just being like, look what I have wrought. Yeah.
Have you seen Four Christmases, the movie?
Yes.
So not a great movie, but Vince Vaughn is lights out in it, and there's this scene where he's playing Jesus. Swaddle that baby. that's how I think Kubrick is, hands raised with like a Jesus outfit on, like, yeah. Fucking sit down. Swaddle that baby. That movie, it's not good. Four Christmases is not good, but for whatever reason, Robert Duvall is in it. Sissy Spacek is in it. Like, what are they doing in this movie? I don't understand. But that scene alone raises it like to a movie that I like to watch every Christmas because of that scene. Swaddle that baby. So good.
I saw that one time at the movies and that was it. I was like, this is fucking horrible.
Yeah, it's bad, dude, but it has like this soft spot in my heart. I love it. It's fun.
I'll revisit. It's been like 15 years. I'll revisit.
Anything just for that scene alone, it's just so worth your time.
I remember, I think didn't Vince Vaughn's best friend marry his mom?
Yeah, Mary Sissy Spacek. I can't remember who the friend is. But like John Favreau plays one of his brothers, and the other brother is like a country singer, like Tim McGraw or something like that. I can't remember who it is. I can't fucking remember. But they're just like these, and Robert Duvall's their fucking dad, and he's just like, real tough, like macho. An absurd movie. but yeah, again, I have a soft spot for it. Yeah, it just reminds me of that. Anytime I see something that's like, aha, look at me, I always think of Vince Vaughn from that damn movie. It's great.
That's fantastic. I remember, this it's been parodied 100 times, 55 years old, but one that I remembered pretty well is History of the World Part One, by Mel Brooks. It parodies the opening with the apes, and they're his is like the dawn of man begins now, and the music's the dun, 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 and then all the monkeys just start jerking off. Like that's the first thing they do, and then it goes to cavemen. That's all we get with the apes is
just cranking it. Yeah, it just got parodied in the Barbie trailer, the teaser.
Yeah, it did.
Greta Gerwig's Barbie. Barbie is the monolith. Margot Robbie, like massive, and as people are looking at it, it's still 55 years later. It's just going to continue getting honored and made fun of, which is awesome.
Barbie is like the most, like the biggest coin flip I've ever seen of a movie. It's either going to be,
dude, I know,
a satire masterpiece or a failure that completely sabotages Greta Gerwig's career.
I'm with you. I'm gonna see it because I'm like so curious about, and I also love Margot, and I love Ryan Gosling. So like I'll see it for like those reasons, but I'm like so interested to see how people kind of handle it and how critics like it, or dislike it. Can't wait.
I mean, hell, if Dungeons and Dragons could get a decent film, I mean, maybe we're in a weird timeline.
We certainly are, man. Alternate. Ever since Everything Ever All at Once, things have just been upside down.
Yeah, we're in the Alphaverse now. Things are looking a little better. Cinematically, not everything else still sucks, but cinematically, we're getting a little bit.
Yeah, this is a movie podcast, so we are going to look at the positivity of movies.
Yeah. Speaking of the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award, Best Performance, I think this is a no-brainer.
Do you?
I do.
I mean, I don't know. I have two that I kind of have like been toying with. I mean, if you're just asking me like, what do I get the most joy out of? It's Douglas Rain as Hal, like 100%. But Keira Dullea is like the main guy, and there's like a few scenes that I'm impressed by, but he also is like very robotic. So like between them two, if I'm just going with my heart, I'm going Hal, man. I'm going Douglas Rain. And the reason I don't have like a problem with choosing a voice performance is because I respect vocal performances so much in animated movies and cartoons, whatever it is. And so what Douglas Rain does in this movie, I think is so awesome as Hal. Great fucking villain, but also you have like some empathy for him. So God, just quality stuff.
You have chosen wisely. Yes, it's Hal, Douglas Rain.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to, play an emotionless, formless villain we only see through a unblinking red eye, who also has to appear sinister and self-serving and creepy. And I think he did a phenomenal job landing all of that. So yeah, Douglas Rain. That's the first thing I wrote down. I'm like, I know no one's taking this from him.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I think Keir does his job well, but there's not a lot at hand, as far as like acting goes. But there are moments of like just the tone of his face and the way when the scene that almost got it for him from me was the scene where he's like, open the fucking door. Like he's like talking to Hal like, you bastard. Like I want to just stab you, but I can't. So please open the door.
When you're at the mercy of an AI who has decided that you are a liability, yeah, I'd be pretty goddamn panicked. And he handles himself pretty well. Like I'm surprised he's not freaking out.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah, but ultimately, yeah, that's kind of my head kind of went there, but my heart was with Douglas. So good shit.
I agree. The John Carpenter Award, the best scene of the movie. Where are we going?
I don't know. I like a lot of different bits of this movie. I guess this is a good chance for me to just kind of gloss over some stuff. So like the beginning of the Dawn of Man thing, I think it's a good bit. I love that he hired mimes to play the apes. I thought that was really cool. They're not really actors; they're people who can express things without using words. Then he got a bunch of zoo noises recorded and used them for these apes to sound real. I love using a real leopard. That's fucking insane. And then getting a dead horse donated and painting it like a zebra. Incredible. It's like right from the get go, you're like, my God, this movie's committed to what it's doing. And the monolith is scary to me. It's fucking frightening. This just like block, this like black block that you're like, what? It has no words on it, has no nothing. And Kubrick wanted it to be like a prism, like wanted it to be clear. And then that made it like he tried that. Like they built one that was like glass, and it made it very hard to film because
It's glass.
You can imagine why. So they like everyone was like, dude, like you got to change it. It's got to be like a matte black, like just solid block. So that's what we get, right? So that whole bit's good. I like some of the production design that happens now in the next phase when we are with Haywood R. Floyd. You see like the Clockwork Orange, the weird, like wacky, kind of post-apocalyptic, weird, like the red chairs that are in there. When he's like walking around, I love the way like the fucking like Skype call that he does to his daughter. I'm like, how the fuck did they know that we were gonna have that? We're using it right now. It's fucking crazy. I love that scene when he's like, now tell mom I telephoned. I love that. It's very like human, very real, pulls you in. You're like, okay, cool. I like this. So I like that stretch. Then they have the land, they go to the moon, they see the monolith there, and then the noise happens. And then we have my favorite segment of the movie, which is traveling to Jupiter. And you get that shot. It's my favorite shot / scene of the movie with the astronauts jogging. Wow. Just completely mind-boggling how this is accomplished. The patience of the scene is really cool. And it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I would love to do this for a living. It's like one of those moments in movies where you're not just like, I love watching movie stars have the camera pointed at them like Leonardo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt. I like filmmaking and I like artsy shit. And this movie's filled with stuff like that. And this particular scene is the one that moved me the most this time around, where I was like, whoa, man, that is just fucking badass. Like that is just really cool. The vision for that scene is awesome. And when the way they film them when they're sitting and eating like the futuristic food out of little trays, that stuff's awesome to me. So that's always the first time I watched it and this time I watched it. That's like the part that I was like, whoa, like this is sick. Like this is kind of right up my alley. So I'm gonna stick with that. I love Interstellar Highway. I love Stargate. I love that boom through the vortex scene with Dave. But like when it comes to just my personal preference, I love that from 18 months later to boom, like right there, you're in the ship with them, with Dave and Frank, and you're watching these guys just do their thing, do their routine. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, pretty much took us through the whole film there. That was cool.
Yeah. I wanted to, I wanted to be clear that I do, I do like this movie. While I don't think it's like, I don't want to call it overrated because I get why it's like revered, but I also am not like personally putting it on like my top 50 list or whatever, but like I get it. Like I really do get it. It's not like over my head or anything. Like I understand why people are obsessed with this thing.
But you can respect films that you don't like. Like I do that all the time.
100%. You have to. Like if something's good, you got it. Call it good,
More so, there's a lot of films I like that I do not respect. Like that happens too.
Tons. Yeah. Along Came Polly, bullshit movie, but like I love it.
Yeah.
I just have a good fucking time. I don't sue me,
Yeah. Rain Dance.
It's because of that. Because of that. I'm always waiting for that scene. Like I could watch PSH do fucking anything and just start crying, even though he's being funny,
Yeah. Yeah, it's all subjective, it's all personal preference, and you are what you eat. I don't know. But Yeah, I do want to say that the unfolding of the monolith in the book is like 10 times scarier. Just the way
Good,
everyone
good.
builds it up, and they're like, you're not going to believe this. Like this thing, we don't know what it is, and like everyone's just like panicky, and Haywood's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I can't. You just got to see it," and it's
That
done so well.
that scene I think could have been the best scene in the movie when he's having the meeting with all the other guys, and he keep it's too intellectual for its own good. That scene, the dialogue, where it's like I feel like they should have been more movie making rather than like realistic making in that scene in particular. Not the
No,
whole movie, but that scene when he's just like, now the secrecy of this is very important. It should have been like laying it on thick, like, listen, you motherfuckers, if you tell anybody about this, you're gonna get your ass kicked and you're gonna get thrown in prison. You know what I mean? Like they should have fucking laid it on thick that like if you tell a soul about this monolith, your ass is done. Like you're toast. And it's more like, all right, gentlemen, any questions? It's just like, ah, I get it. It's trying to be real, but like sometimes you got to make movies. you know?
see, Clark pulled that off though, because in the book, everyone's fucking terrified, but trying to hold themselves together. And in the movie,
Mm.
you don't get that. You're just like, okay, so this is like Thursday to them. They found alien.
Yeah, it feels like a normal meeting. I'm like, this isn't a normal meeting. This is fucking nuts.
You found a 3 million-year-old like thing buried on the moon that predates human civilization and was clearly left there by aliens. But you're acting like this is, a daily briefing of, you're going with a new company for the coffee crystals or some shit. Like, come on, be afraid. We know you're afraid.
Yeah, it's okay to like, hey, let's bring in Al Pacino, come scream a little bit. Like it's okay to do that sometimes. Like, I get it, but I'm also like, man, they could have like that scene could have been like awesome. Like it could have been really cool because the build up for Haywood and when he goes and sees those other doctors and they're like, something's going on Clavius, watch out. Like there's an epidemic or whatever, and he's just like, oh, I can't talk about it. You're just kind of like, okay, is this a big deal or not? Because like Haywood's treating it like, that's interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Clark,
I don't know. I mean, maybe hire someone other than William Sylvester to play Haywood, and you might get a more like kind of riled up performance. Get like Gene Hackman in there.
yeah. Well, Clark, you know, he does that by throwing in the occasional like, Haywood walked away, seething that he couldn't reveal the real truth to his like old friend, and like the truth was eating him. He couldn't believe what they'd found and things like that. And it's like, well, shit, what they find? Like you get invested in that shit. That's why I read it in 2 days because I couldn't put it down.
Oh, that's cool, man. I love that.
Yeah. So
It's
there.
only like 250 pages, right? Or
Yeah, about that much. Yeah,
it's not like super long. Okay, nice.
not dense either, which I was very surprised at.
yeah, yeah. And if you've never seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you're like 2.5 hour trippy sci-fi movie, this is going to be dense. No, no. Like there's like a lack of explanation.
Yeah, it's if anything, it's fucking hollow. Like,
Yeah,
be careful how you handle this film. If you drop it, it will shatter.
yeah. I love that. That should be on the poster. Ultimate trip.
Just be careful. I ultimately went with open the pod bay doors. I mean that whole
Yeah.
sequence is once Hal reveals his intentions and Dave is like, it's just me versus the machine, and
Yeah.
it turns into something else. It takes a brief turn into horror and stays there for just a little bit, but in that bit, your eyes are glued because you're like, finally something.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant, man. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. And then he goes to like a nice hotel room, becomes an alien fetus god. So it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the going through the vortex and then like seeing himself grow old and like die and then like turn into it's like, oh, this is this moment in this movie where you're like, okay, there must be an explanation. Then it's like, nope.
But like, would any explanation have worked? People would have been like, oh, it's tacked on, or I'm even more confused. They never would have been able to pull that off.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ending is like ridiculous and should be.
Yeah, this is conceptual sci-fi. Arthur Clarke was like, if you understand this movie, we fucked up. And
Yeah.
I kind of love that. I mean, I hate it, but I love it at the same time.
Yeah. There's like a irony to it, you know.
Yeah. It's a great cop out. I'm gonna start doing that. If my thesis defense doesn't go right, I'm gonna be like, well, if you understood it, I failed.
I think a lot of great storytellers simply don't know how to end things.
Oh yeah.
So ambiguity is like the easiest way to just be like,
The
see ya.
best skill you can have as a writer is sticking the landing. It happens so rarely in film, books, TV.
Everything.
Yeah. Figuring that out is beautiful. I don't have that skill. I'm bad at ending things.
Yeah, I think it's like if you can master that, like I don't know, you can. I think a lot of great writers are either like in camp A or camp B, like they like see a destination, they're like, all right, that's my destination now, like let's just get there, and like when we fill in the blanks, and there's some people who are like, I'm just gonna start writing and see what the fuck happens, and they're like, oh, Space Odyssey happens, or whatever happens. um Something like Parasite happens. Bong Joon Ho was just like, shit, 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 shit. Oh, okay, like this is good. We got to stop here because like I could just keep going forever, you know. And I don't know. There's like something cool about both of them, right? Um, I think for both of us, we love something like Vince Gilligan's Breaking Bad, where it's just like, that
Well,
was awesome.
I like a map. I like to know that the guy I'm watching, like their work, they cared from beginning to end. They laid it all out. They knew what they were doing. They knew where they were going, and they added in things along the way, but ultimately the structure stayed the same. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That's yeah, it's good shit. There's you like can't complain when it's like that for you. It's just like, here you go. This is, take it, grapple with it, have fun.
Exactly. Oh, cool. Well, let's go to Letterboxd for 2001: A
Yes.
Space Odyssey. Let's check out what's in the box.
So much good shit.
What's in the fucking box? Give me the gun.
I knew this was going to be just like nothing but oh, Kubrick's masterpiece and just shit like that. And I was half right. There's a lot of people on there like me, but a lot less nice about it. 4.3 out of 5, which is fucking bananas. That's nice. That's real nice. Is that the highest rated film we've talked about so far?
Everything Ever All at Once, I think, has a 4.4.
Oh, thank God.
But yeah, I mean, this is one of like the classics that we haven't covered on this show. And not just, it's not like an English speaking classic. This is like a revered, like, international film.
Yeah. And I want to start with somebody who hated this more than anything I've ever hated. I mean, wow.
Yes. Like half a star type.
Half a star, straight up.
Yeah. I read some of those earlier today. They're just so funny.
Like, I don't like the movie, but I'm not trying to tear you down for things that you like about the movie, because that's just me.
And this half a star is saved for like things that are on purpose bad, you know?
I didn't give A Good Day to Die Hard half a star.
Yeah, like I don't know if I've given a half a star to anything.
I gave half a star, I think, to Reefer Madness.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, yeah, come on. I'm gonna give weed turns people into psycho killers. Yeah, that's gonna get a half a star.
Yeah, fair enough.
This is what Mary Conti has to say about 2001. Oh, I was dying reading this. 2001: A Space Odyssey is quite simply the worst thing to happen to cinema ever. That's quite the accusation. Its forced profundity has caused millions of people all over the world to force themselves to like what is quite simply nothing more than an exercise in style. I don't know if people are forcing themselves to like this.
No.
Kubrick has no idea what he is doing here. His film jumps around with little to no sense of unity. The great filmmakers of the world create a series of events that contain clarity of information, something Kubrick couldn't bet his life on. The great filmmakers of the world. I guess Kubrick's not one of those. That's great. What is the purpose of what is going on here? Is there any coherent message? I have heard suggestions that it is Kubrick's message about the future of humanity, but what future is that? Does Kubrick even know? Well, no, clearly, as we researched, no, he didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to like this. This is Transformers for the art house crowd.
Put that on a shirt for me. I would wear that every day.
Pure style over substance. Nobody actually likes this film. They just like to be seen liking it.
Man, what? Who hurt them?
Like their friend took them to a screening of this and like built it up. They're like, you're gonna love this. This is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's 35 millimeter. I guarantee you, they said that. And this person was like, "You son of a bitch! You lied to me." God damn, I love that.
Yeah, I love reviews like that are just like, fuck you, I'm against the grain.
These guys who do these negative reviews are never like, it just wasn't for me. I didn't really care for it. They're always like, this movie's the spawn of Satan, and how dare you like it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I read them on purpose, like of movies that I like or are just like conventionally good to me. I love finding those people that are just like so angry and they have to like they're doing the very thing that they're like hating on. They're like, I have to make this my identity. Like hating this thing. Just like they're making fun of people like, oh, they have to like it for their own identity and for other people to see them like it. It's like, okay, cool, neat. Like that's fine. I'm sure there's people out there who do say they love Space Odyssey and they don't really even know what's going on. That's with every piece of art. Every piece of art's going to have people who are just kind of like follow the masses and yeah, I like this too. Cool. But there's still people out there who genuinely like the movie and have reasons for it. And like there's people who love this movie and have reasons for it. And for you to just like discredit all of that is like, what's wrong with you, man? Like you're the one with the problem. Because if someone's like, this isn't for me, 2.5 stars, I got bored. Fine, fair enough. I'm like, oh, I'll sleep at night. I'm cool with that. But when someone goes out of their way to just tear down a quote unquote classic, just to be mean and negative is like, man, you're not. I would like hate to hang out with you.
Well, look, I didn't care for the movie either, but to say that Kubrick has no idea what he's doing here
Is like that's the only thing going like for sure is going for it is that he does know what he's doing.
yeah, if he didn't know what he was doing, I can see this absolutely falling apart very quickly. But the guy directed the shit out of this movie and basically, moved sci-fi films forward 20 years in Hollywood.
Yeah, like yeah. I love to go to that person's account and they probably have like under their favorites like Empire Strikes Back. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
See, problem is though, that is also a really good movie. And there's no way to win with these people. Like there's no
Exactly. It's like, yeah, fine. I get it. But like if you like that movie, look back 10 years before, like there's this one over here.
I know. It's like, we both have pieces of that. Like, you very much are in the art house camp, and I'm very much in the, I like a lot more, blockbustery stuff. But we're so damn reasonable that like we still hate these people and we wouldn't want to talk to them.
I would never. I also would never want to hang out with someone who's like, this movie is the end all be all. Like I don't want to hang out with that guy either.
Dude, I fucking despise Star Wars fans.
Like they're monsters. They're the worst. Like ugh. They're the worst. Star Wars fans and I'm trying to think of other movies. That's kind of it. I'll admit, and like I'm a big fan of, but like there are some Lord of the Rings fans out there that I'm like, all right, like calm down. They're like, I'm gonna learn languages. Like, okay, dude, like chill. Take a stress pill.
There's those people who are like, acting like Zack Snyder's the second coming of Christ. And you're like, no, it's coming back. We're going to get Justice League 2. It's coming back. Like, those people are crazy. And then the Marvel fans have started to become assholes too. So I don't like fandoms. Like they get in, they start acting like this is gospel and suddenly I don't want to be associated with you anymore.
And acting like, are you on the cast and crew? Okay.
Yeah. What's your
You're
investment?
you're a fucking moron who spends $15 every week to see this shit. Know what you are. Come on, like you're an audience member. Get over it.
If I was a producer like with 350 million bucks invested in this thing and it tanked, I would be extremely pissed and I'd have a valid reason to be upset. Of
course.
But yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, when people are like so angry about like the way Marvel movies have gone, I'm like, you're going. you bought the ticket, like I'm not in love with what they've done, like, but I'm also like, I have a brain and I'm like, it's not that easy to make Infinity War and Endgame over and over. It's not happening. Like, get over it. Like, get over it. That's just the way it is, and if all of them were Endgame and Infinity War, you'd get bored, all right? Because they'd all be the same, just like, oh, that was good, that was great, that was great. You'd like get warped, like you have to have the random weird Eternals and Wakanda Forever and Doctor Strange into the multiverse. You have to have those. You just do.
At the end of the day,
it's just the way it goes.
It's a movie. It's a movie.
Yeah. I believe they can change your life, but I also think that they don't need to make your life depressing.
Yeah, they can change your life. They should never change your life.
Yeah, they should make you so bitter that you're like your day is ruined. That just shouldn't be the case.
Don't name your kid Thanos, and don't bitch on the internet about it. Anyway,
love that rant. These rants that we go on. Yeah,
it's the best. We kick down the fence and we're just going rogue pretty much every time. I love it.
Unplugged. Yeah.
This one's from Hanya. So people in the 60s thought that 2001 would be the peak of human intelligence and space travel, but all we got was low-waist jeans and Shrek. 5 stars.
That's brilliant.
That was
Shrek.
That's all. That's the entire 2001, just low-waist jeans and Shrek. I'm sure some other stuff probably happened, but that's all anybody remembers.
That's also one of my favorite things about Letterboxd is you can like treat it like, oh, I'm going to write a full review and I'm going to write like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. And some people do. Mad respect to those people. But there's also people up there who just put like a sentence and you're like, it's like Twitter. Like, I love that too.
I've only done that one time. I'll usually do my 3-paragraph, diatribe. But when I watched The Happening for an episode of Beyond the Bad, I just wrote Mark Wahlberg talks to plants. And that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's
all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Like I think there's one of this movie that I saw that was just like, space is neat.
Well,
sick. 4.5 stars.
Space is neat.
Yeah.
That's a t-shirt.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. This next one's from Eric Hatch. A monkey gets so excited with his bone that an astronaut with a shitty computer turns into an adult baby. 5 stars.
Adult baby, 5 stars. Fuck yeah. Dave the baby. Star Child.
I would love if this was a prequel to like The Boss Baby.
Have you seen that movie?
No, because I refuse to watch a baby in a suit doing adventures. I don't care.
It's not that bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I watched it with Willow one day and I was like, why am I laughing?
All right, I'll make you a deal. When I have a child, I will watch The Boss Baby.
Yeah, totally fair, right? There's a bunch of movies I've watched that I thought I would never go near. But then Willow's like, that looks fun. And I'm like, well, fuck it. Why not? And you know what? It's been nice. There's like a catalog of Willow movies that like I would just have never gone near that she's like all about. And I'm like, that's neat for her. She's 4. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. But I do, when I was watching Space Odyssey, I did think to myself, when am I going to show her like these? Or do I be that parent who's like not going to like force art down their throat? Like, this is what I love, so you're going to love it. Do I just let her find it?
Yeah, you can't do that. You can, if she comes to you looking for recommendations, then yes, but don't be like, you're going to sit down and enjoy this Kubrick movie.
At age 14, she's like, yeah. I don't care.
You're going to give her a vile hatred of film that's going to break your heart.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that with like anything. Like, I've kind of always despised that when people are like, I'm going to like force this thing upon. This goes with a lot of categories, but like obviously movies is like my main thing with her. And so far, I've just let her like I'll scroll through stuff, and she says stop, I'm stopping. That's what we're watching. That's what we're doing. Obviously, I'm not gonna like stop on fucking Takashi Miike's Audition, but like if she like sees something she likes on whatever Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's watch it.
I love picturing you just like scrolling through Shudder, and Willow's like, "Stop," and you're like,
Nope.
"Okay,
Nope.
that's the rule."
Yeah.
And you like scar her with like the sadness.
Oh, I feel like I need to take a shower after thinking
Yeah.
about that. Like, that movie.
Brianna's chewing you out, and you're like, "She said stop."
Brianna, when I got home the other night, and Brianna was watching John Wick 3, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, she has." She's, to be fair, like I sat there for a second. Willow was just locked into whatever, like she was watching a movie on her iPad with like headphones on. I was like, okay, I guess, but like, holy shit, this movie's intense. Like there's some insane act. Willow will usually look away from if something like you're gonna love this. She was looking through my DVDs because like her like this like tablet game thing she uses charges close to some of my DVDs, right next to the F's, and there's a copy of Fright Night, and she saw the spine of the movie and was like, I don't want to watch that. because there's like a vampire on the bottom of the spine of the DVD, and she was like, I don't want to go near that, and I was like, good. So she's like already got this like no thanks. Like we have a what's his fucking name, god damn it, Tom Hardy Venom. We have like a Venom poster in our hallway, and when I'm holding her and I walk past it, she's like like nope. And I'm like, she has like this like nature about her that's like, I don't want to go near that. It's probably not going to be good for me. She's 4. I'm like, these people are smarter than I am. These little children. Like, I can't believe it. It's crazy.
I have my own theory about that. I think that stems from that time you watched Hellraiser with her, like as an infant, like a newborn on your chest. I think that's where that comes from.
I watched so many fucked up movies with her as like a tiny little blob. She would just be like asleep in my arms.
She was absorbing that shit.
I'd just be fucking locked into whatever dark demon shit is on the screen. And she's just like, just fucking, I need food, or whatever, not speaking, just blabbering. And I'm like, Jesus wept.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, man. But yeah, obviously once they get older, you're like, oh, you got to watch it now, man. Like you watch what you say and watch what you show them.
Well, speaking as somebody who grew up as, in a cinematic family, that's pretty much how it worked. My parents had a tape collection and let me just kind of look at it and put on stuff that looked interesting. And for me, that was Back to the Future and Roger Rabbit and Beetlejuice and these films that became foundational to me. The older I got, I was exploring the collection wider and looking at stuff and finding stuff that I didn't like. And sometimes my mom and dad would be like, that's too heavy for you. Don't watch that. So I just wait till they went to bed and watch it anyway. And they were right.
Yeah. Your curiosity stemmed from them.
Yeah. And then, when I found out like, oh, people make these things, like, oh, Tim Burton, who's that? And then I'd start looking at his films, and it just kind of became an organic process. And I had other family members chime in. My uncle's like, you might like Quentin Tarantino. And then I went, into that. And it's all about, when you're ready, hopefully people around you will be able to influence you with, recommendations and filmmakers you might like. And I think you're not going to have trouble with that.
Not at all. Yeah. I'm hoping she even has a taste that like broadens my taste. Like I hope that happens too. That'd be really cool.
It already happened.
Yeah, it's happening right now, and I hope it continues that way.
That's beautiful, man. That's great. This next one's from Hunter with a like accent mark over the E.
Hunter.
Hunter. Oh,
Hunter. It's pronounced Schneeblay. It's so awesome. I love that. I want to put something above one of my letters. Like it's Austin.
I just think Joe Dirte whenever I see that.
Dude. I haven't seen that movie in ages.
I'm
Great,
trying
great
to
stuff.
church it up, son. Don't you mean Joe Dirt?
Joe Dirte.
God damn it. Here's the review. NASA hired Kubrick to fake the moon landing in studio, but he's such a perfectionist they had to film it on the moon instead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's too real.
And he didn't give any stars. He's too good for that.
He's just like, I don't rate movies.
Yeah.
I watch them.
Hunter doesn't review the movies review him.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what's going on in my head.
It's always 5 stars.
Yeah. Everything's art, man. Yeah.
Ugh, is it?
I've seen some stuff. It's when it's shit, it's shit.
Oh boy. All right. This last one's from Truman. I only saw this in theaters so that when pretentious people talk about it, I can yawn. 5 stars.
A bit of sarcasm there. That's good. I love that. You know. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Letterboxd. This is what it's for, man. This is. You get a good laugh. Sometimes you learn. You know. Sometimes you get angry. It's great.
Yeah, it's cool to see the wide world of film buffs and what they think about this shit. It's cool to have access to that.
Yeah, and be a part of it, right? You know, share your own thoughts, and some people interact, and you never know. You never know, like what you're gonna find about a movie. Nowadays, I am one of those like Letterboxd bros who's like, if I see a new movie, I'll get on there and just be like, just see what people are saying about it, and just out of curiosity, like what are fans that are willing enough to go see a film and talk about it on this social media app. Like typically you get rewarded by reading stuff from other perspectives just because that's how like art works. You just keep sharing with people and sharing your thoughts and opinions, and here we are doing a whole segment about it. So this segment's so much fun.
It really is. It's a blast. And adding, I'm so glad I decided to move my reviews from the website to Letterboxd, because reviewing on Letterboxd has cut my review time in half because I no longer have to build a page.
Yeah.
I can
it's pretty, they make it pretty easy. Yeah. Just
you throw it, you write up, your thoughts. Takes me less than 5 minutes of a review.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, this was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that about covers it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you like the show, feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Filmgasm Productions. If you want to suggest films for us to check out, you can email us at filmgasm@gmail.com, or you can always send a message through any of the socials. Check out our Letterboxd accounts for daily reviews. You can search me at Connor95, and in my friends list, you can find the rest of the team. Check out our website, filmgasm.com, where I have a link to my Letterboxd if you want to read reviews, and you can also find articles, trailers of upcoming films, and every episode of our show. If you'd like to become a monthly donor to Filmgasm Productions, feel free to click on the link in the episode description. From there, you can click on support this podcast. You can choose to donate $1 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month. All donations go right back into the podcast, and we appreciate it. Thanks to the entire... Oh, yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I love doing this as a hobby. It'd be great to make it a job.
Yeah. It would be nice. I'll watch all the 2001 documentaries. I swear.
I'll read all of Arthur C. Clarke's shitty sequels. I'll do it.
I might not enjoy it, but I'll do it for content.
It's content. Thanks to the entire Filmgasm team for their constant friendship and contributions to the show. Austin Johnson, Caleb Leger, Josh Allred, Colton Jenkins, Christian Aguilar, Isabel Gonzalez, Jeremy Johnson, Adam Johnson, and Maja Pierce-Lewis. You guys rock. Thank you. And thanks to Cooley Cow for our awesome theme music. And thanks to you for checking out the show. Don't piss off any artificial intelligence this week. And if you're into conceptual science fiction, good for you. I wish I could get on board. Take it easy. Keep watching movies. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.